And we're back for some NBA observations right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast. Happy holidays to you and yours. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from the Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, and Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Hopefully all is well with you in the NBA Cup Finals week, and here to go ahead and discuss the NBA Cup and more as far as the NBA is concerned. Good man indeed. Please go ahead and check out his latest articles, including the Clippers. Always a good read. I read it twice. I liked it so much. I read it twice. It is available on the Suave Report, along with his thoughts on OKC as well, because he does cover OKC quite a bit, which we'll talk about here in just a few seconds. It is Calif Poncy. Calif, great to have you back. Hopefully your holiday season is going as planned.
Yeah, other than I was thinking I was going to be able to sit down and enjoy some Thunder basketball tomorrow, and not. Yeah, so other than that, everything's going great, man. It's excited to talk about everything. The NBA Cup is interesting on the court. It's interesting off the court, as this ESPN article that came out today kind of alludes to. I'm interested and ready to talk about everything.
I did want to add something on. I just thought of it, just hit in my head, which, again, is usually, been told by a lot of our audience members, it's kind of hollow, like Joe Soros. Joe Soros is big and hollow and, just huge, like an ego, and it's empty. Mine is smaller and empty. So, be that that's the case, today is the deadline. It's just as far as number one, as far as for 90% of the league is now eligible to be traded. Very interesting. I don't want to say trading season is here, but technically trading season is here. Seeing that is the case, are there any kind of juicy stories or trade rumors that you think should be at the head of what we should be talking about when it comes to trade rumors before we get into the NBA Cup?
I think the most interesting thing that's happening this year in general is kind of like, so everyone is going to naturally point to Giannis for this, and I just don't think an in-season trade of someone of Giannis's caliber is going to happen very often. Like, I know we've just happened to see it, I think, 2 years in a row with Durant and Luka. But I just don't think that's like particularly realistic. I don't know where it would be. I think Mark Stein reported like OKC, Houston, and the Spurs all would probably not really be super into doing an in-season trade with him. So throwing that out, that's what a lot of people are going to go for with the low-hanging fruit. I think the interesting thing this season has been these teams that are thriving without their stars. So that includes Atlanta without Trae Young. That includes Memphis without Ja Morant. I don't think it includes – we talked about Paul a little bit last week. I do not think he's anywhere near this list yet. I don't think there's enough runway.
In Orlando, as far as I'm concerned, he is back. He has been playing in the NBA Cup. He did over the weekend, but – and the statistics do bear it out, but Franz Wagner again getting hurt, and Jalen Suggs again getting hurt kind of put the kibosh on that. Plus, he's younger, and I'm sure they want to give him more time.
Yeah, but so, I mean, I think the most interesting trade possibilities are kind of those guys like Trae Young and Ja Morant, just because I don't think they'll be traded. It's just really hard to move big salaries now with how they've, changed these aprons and made it really hard to do trades. But I think that in terms of, there's going to be moves that we don't know, and there'll be some really impactful role players traded. Like the last 2 years, we've seen Dallas with PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford 2 years ago. And then last year, Cleveland kind of tried their version of it with a guy like DeAndre Hunter. Obviously didn't go as well as it did in Dallas, but so there'll be guys like that, high-level role players. But I think in terms of like potential moves that could actually maybe change how some teams are viewed, I think it would be maybe a draw situation. Because I don't think there seems to be any off-court issue with Trae in Atlanta. Like, as far as I can tell, everything there is pretty good on an off-court standpoint. This draw thing is weird. It has been all season. And I think he's going to be traded eventually. I don't know if it'll be during this regular season. It probably won't be. But I think that it's at least something that as an NBA community, we probably should start maybe thinking about where those teams could be, because he's going to be an interesting trade guy, because he's not going to be for everyone. And that said, he's so talented, he will be for someone. And it's just going to be kind of, who do we think that is, I guess, would be, that's my opinion on what would be like the most kind of engaging and entertaining and possible trade that we could see maybe happen in the next, before the deadline, whenever that is, next couple months.
And you're right, Trey hasn't, done too much off the court. He's had issues with coaches, but almost every, high level player has had, confrontations or issues with coaches in the past. I don't know currently what his deal with Quinn Snyder would be as far as extra. I think maybe Legend, who follows the Atlanta Hawks closely, could tell me more about that one, or tell us both more about that one. But I think, like you said, it's with Trey because he has certain benefits, he has certain deficiencies. How much do you want to commit to Trey Young? That's when you talk about these max deals. How much do you want to commit to these type of players? Triple J, Memphis is probably already getting some buyer's remorse when they think about it, seeing what they've seen from Triple J and how much money they committed to. Ja Morant, like you're talking about, he is really underperformed, and we don't know what it's going to be like, but there's a safe guess that it's probably not going to look a whole lot fresher the older he continues to get and the less athleticism he will continue to have over the course of his career. But we will see what happens, because his jump shot is not improving by leaps and bounds there. So we'll see what happens as far as this trading season, but it is open. But I also think that with some of these teams, like the Lakers, for instance, I this summer, I really wanted the Lakers to go all in. I wanted the Lakers to commit, because, again, you're on the Luka timeline. So every year you have Luka, you should make every available effort possible to go ahead and do that. But the question now remains with who could be available, for what the Lakers have in resources, to who could be available to them. Because I really think if you're planning or hoping on Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think the words pipe dream is really come into play here, because there's just, you cannot expect to be given Christmas gifts twice in a row in the same year, or in two different seasons, because it's just not going to work. John Horst is not going to be put up in a mantle place, or his name is not going to be hanging from the crypto.com arena in the same way Nico Harrison is, because he's just not going to give that good of a deal to the Lakers. The Lakers don't have that many assets. So I'm worried about a team like a Lakers, or other teams that are right there in the upper mid pack. Let's say those teams in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th position that has some aspirations about moving up, doing too much to try and build for the now, and maybe sacrificing too much of their future because of it, because of the fact that OKC, which we'll talk about, might have a little bit more glaring weaknesses than what was perceived, but they're still 24-2. They've still got the best record overwhelmingly in the NBA, and they still have a lot of options to choose from. And again, there's other teams like Denver, Houston, Detroit, New York. There are a lot of good teams out there. I'm just worried about that tier below teams, the teams that are not, or almost there, could be there, but everything absolutely has to go right for them to go ahead and win. And that's the thing. Do they see that? Do they sense that they're going to jump on it as far as providing or making a trade that they think will make them better, that in reality may hurt them long term? That's what I fear for, not just the Lakers. I fear for all these teams that are right there with some type of long-term playoff aspirations at this point, Caleb.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I think that now that I'm not creating this by any means, there people have said this that know a lot more than I do, but I think there probably will be some just natural maybe trepidation to do huge trades because of the really negative returns we've seen, whether that be Phoenix with Kevin Durant, or Obviously, the most famous recent example is the Clippers for Paul George and Kawhi. I just think that maybe there's going to be a little bit of like, let's just not go crazy for. And the guy also has to reveal himself. Like I don't know when you look at the top guys in the league because that's what is kind of unfairly remembered about that Clippers trade is it was for Paul George, but it wasn't just for Paul George. It's for Paul George and Kawhi, right? And Kawhi at that time, arguably the best player in the league. He's coming off the championship with Toronto. Like in that moment, it made a lot more sense than it does now. And so I think for something like that to happen, like the Suns giving up that much for someone who is as old as Kevin Durant was, that never really made a ton of sense to me. And the players' part was fine. Them giving up that much pick equity for him at an advanced age, never I thought was a very smart move. But so we'll see. Like if you look at the top 5 players, it's like Jokic isn't going anywhere, Shea's not going anywhere, Luka's not going anywhere, Wemby's not going anywhere. Giannis could, like he's the one, right? Like he's the one who we could see moved. And the teams in that range that I think could be in play for him is Atlanta, which has been widely speculated about. It makes a lot of sense just in terms of the awesome kind of pick chip they have this year in this awesome draft. They have a likely top 5 pick. They have a big salary and a high level player to send back. And Trae Young is just not really like, he would be the centerpiece, but really like they'd have to put in a lot of other stuff too, and people say Jalen Johnson. Everything we've heard is they have no intentions of putting Jalen Johnson in any deals. And another one who I think can make sense that's in that range to me is Miami. Like Miami is always going to be, Miami's kind of like the Lakers East. They're always going to be in it for these guys. Like as soon as a big name requests a trade or wants out, Miami's going to be somewhere in the top 6 of his list, regardless of if they're good or bad. People just want to go to Miami.
But you also got to remember with Atlanta, they now have, again, they have not performed, I guess, to the expectations of many, because we thought Atlanta would be one of the interesting teams to watch in the East. But things have gotten a little bit murkier with the, I guess, revival of the illness, again, that plagued Kristaps Porzingis. So who knows what's going to happen there? I mean, if you're trading him or you're trading for him, you're no longer trading for the player. You're trading for that contract because who knows if that player is actually going to get out on the court and for how many games.
Yeah, I mean that was really too bad to hear. It's obviously a really scary diagnosis for him. We all hope for the very best for Kristaps, but yeah, I mean that obviously complicates the deal. Like he was going to be a salary in every hypothetical Giannis trade, whether you put in Jalen Johnson or Trae Young, whoever you thought it would be, he had to be in there for salary matching purposes. And now if they were to want to do that, I'm sure Milwaukee would want even more picks. Like we're taking on a guy who just, unfortunately, no one wants it to be the case, but he's just not really likely to be an asset anytime soon in the NBA again due to what he's dealing with. So yeah, I mean, I think the two that in that range that you got to watch who maybe are in that middle range, and they're not a contender, but they're maybe right on the fringe of breaking into the low level. I think Atlanta and Miami are the ones that make sense. In the West, you said it, like I just don't think the Lakers really have the assets to play with right now to make a super giant move. But
they need multiple players, Calif. I know that a lot of our fan base we're just 1 3-and-D player away. I don't know. I think their depth is still a big issue, and I think they need, if they could get 2 or 3 really strong rotation players that could provide that 3-and-D what people are talking about, then that changes the dynamic for me. I'll think about that a lot more clear. But that's what again, unless you're into expiring contracts, it's going to be a really hard move to make for Rob Pelinka.
Yeah, and I mean, it's what I said. I think maybe even back in our preview when we were talking about kind of the Lakers in regards to the Thunder. I just think that the way the salaries work, like and the no trade clause on LeBron, like they're just going to be kind of relatively locked into this roster. They can add a guy on the fringes, like Pelinka's always been a good job. He's always been great at that. Tell us, he gets a lot of praise. I don't think that maybe he should for the Luka trade. He also gets a lot of people coming for him when I think he's pretty like he's fine. I think he's a pretty good GM, and he like the
Rui up and down ride, Caleb.
Yes,
I'll just leave it to you on that.
And he has the Russell Westbrook trade, which obviously set the Lakers back God knows how long. But he also has the Rui Hachimura trade. He was able to, I don't know, I guess Kleber hasn't played at all. When they got Kleber, I was like, they're getting Kleber too. He's pretty good. And then he just doesn't play. So
Kleber hasn't been good in years.
Yeah, I was lost in my
he's got his European bags. They're packed. They're packed. The stamp is on it. There, we're just waiting for the time till he goes back to Europe. But Vanderbilt, that trade hasn't worked out. Plus, the drafting as of late in recent years hasn't been really stellar as well. Just again, it's an up and down ride with Rob Pelinka. But again, to those people who think, I talk to them every day. I see them every day. I see their comments every day. They're just 1 3-and-D player away. Joe often remarks on that. I think, again, to bridge that gap between OKC and a team like the Lakers, I think it needs something a little bit more. But even with a team like Denver, they need, obviously, with the injuries that they're incurring all the time, they need something more to help bridge that gap as well. Houston, because of the Van Vliet injury, I mean, they've been able to still have a high-octane offense. They've been able to shoot efficiently. They've been able to do a lot of good things, but they still are missing something, I think, as well. I think every team that wants to match itself up against OKC is missing something. So it could be interesting this trading season.
Yeah, are the Lakers a second apron team, or are they just first?
They're skirting it. They're dancing. They're showcasing themselves. They're right on that line, but no, they had the edict from Genie Bus. This goes back to the Genie Bus governorship dates where they were skirting it, but they're less than $1 million, I believe, away from that second tax.
Okay, because that's kind of what I was going to point to a little bit is the buyout market is always really overrated. But for a team like the Lakers, I just don't think, as presently constructed, I said this back in our preview.
How dare you say that? Markieff Morris led us to a championship in 2020.
I had my own buyout Markieff Morris experience, and I do not remember it as fondly as you do.
Fair enough.
But I don't think this team, as presently constructed, it can get to that level of OKC. I just think we saw it against the Spurs. When the Lakers defense goes up against a really athletic, fast-paced team, it's just going to be a really rough matchup for them. It's just going to be with how they're currently constructed. And the likelihood is you're not going to be able to bring in 2 all-league defenders at the deadline who are going to come in and change that. So, I think the Lakers maybe do need I'd be interested to see maybe what the goals would be like. Could they compete with Denver if they maybe add a couple of really good players, or could they compete with Houston? I personally don't think so, but I can see why some people think that. They have a lot of awesome players who are going to be awesome in the playoffs. And
the question is, though, some of the other teams out there that have a lot of cap space that could potentially come up. So let's say they don't do anything. And that all that cap space with LeBrons and Austins and Rui Hachimura, all that money comes off there, Caleb. What do they do with it? Do they have a plan? Did Mark Walter, when he took over the team, he said, okay, that's your plan. All right. So where's your target next? Where in the summer of 2026 do you plan this team to go? Or are you shooting for 27? Show me the plan. Show me what it is going forward. Because, again, you're counting on a lot of things. Oh, they're going to get a player just because it's the Lakers. You're going to go. There's always that common belief as well that we're going to get that special player or that player that we need just because it's the Lakers. I'm not counting on that, nor should anyone else, because it doesn't always happen. We have a 10-year period of almost of futility, as far as they're concerned. Before we won in 2020. And right now we're going on 6 years, almost here. Well, 5 as of now, but going to go on possibly 6 or more before we find a championship again. So you have to make your own breaks, I think, in a lot of life, and you have to understand that has to be a plan going forward. So that's what I want to know. That's okay. If you're not going to make a move now, when do you make your move and who is it for?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a really fun thing for us to do down the line would just be to kind of like storyboard out like a Lakers offseason, because I've kind of pushed back a little bit on the Luka Thunder Killer thing from the playoffs. I've pushed back on that just a little bit. He's a great player who has had success against Thunder, but it's a little overstated in my opinion. But regardless, the one thing I will say that terrified me that he did over and over and over and over and over and over and over in that playoff series, that Aiton's been better at it than I thought, but like I have to think that under new leadership, a guy like a Daniel Gafford would be a gettable piece this summer. Maybe not now, maybe now. I don't know how they'd make it work now. But maybe, and Luka with a lob threat, he and Trae Young, and more so Luka because of how much more dangerous he's as a scorer, are the best lob throwers I have ever seen play. And I'm not that old, I understand that, but in my relatively short NBA fandom, that like every time the Thunder would kind of wall up on Luka in that series, he'd throw a lob and it would be perfect, whether it was to Gafford or Lively, and that's why those guys dominated. They were so good at doing that. Luka like spoon-fed Derek Lively lobs to the point where after that series, there was real humans who thought that Derek Lively was better than Chet Holmgren. That was an actual discourse that was had because of how dominant Luka is as a lob passer. So personally, if I was the Lakers, I just think I maybe would be a little bit realistic with myself and maybe look in the mirror and say, we don't think that this is the year we're going to like break or win another championship. Like it's just probably not particularly realistic right now. But we do want to set the table for the future. Let's get Luka a guy he can throw lobs to, a center, a pure rim run center. And I like I said, I know Ayton has been because that was not Ayton's game before.
He has really improved in that area. But like you said, it wasn't his game before he came to LA.
Yeah, and so he's honest. He's been, I think, better than anyone could have probably realistically thought he was going to be, especially in that rim run role. But it's still never going to be his natural game. And I think if you get a real guy who just has a great feel for that the lob catch, the pick and roll, I think that's just a huge asset to have when Luka Doncic is on your team. So Lakers fans listening, that would be my number one thing that I would want the Lakers to maybe try and swing for at the deadline is call on Gafford. Maybe the ownership might have blocked Rob Pelinka's number at the same time they fired Nico Harrison. I think that's probably a realistic thing to think.
I just, as much as it sounds great, I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think PR wise it's the smartest move to grab to have any conversations with Rob Pelinka for the foreseeable future.
I think you're right, but I still think if you're Pelinka, you should make that call. And if it's not him, there's guys.
Hello. This thing's not working.
Those guys, maybe not as good as Gafford, but like you can find them kind of like a dime a dozen. Like it's not like you have to go get those guys. Like just go find another awesome rim rolling center. And I think maybe starting next season, the Lakers would see immediate, real just versatility and growth with their offense. That's my opinion from afar.
Absolutely. Well, again, for me, I think it's also on the perimeter that's needed as far as defenders on the perimeter, and they need a bolstering of the bench. When I praised against their game in Phoenix, I'm going to redub that the LeBron versus Dylan Brooks Bowl. The bench. Surprisingly, during the 24-0 run that the Lakers had at the third and partially the fourth quarter, a lot of that was due to the bench. But again, they gave a great performance, but that's like one of very few performances for one of the still worst performing benches in the entire league. And I just need more consistency from those five guys coming off the bench. If we could get to the point where we can trust consistently 8 to 9 guys on a regular basis, that would be awesome. And that's where I think we needed to get to compete with the OKCs, Houstons of the world. You cannot be so reliant on your starting five, because as we've seen, it just burns itself out. Like last year with the Lakers, and just these teams that are so reliant on a starting lineup, it just is so hard to go ahead and maintain that, even in a shortened rotation, because we saw OKC or Houston or Denver could probably throw body after body at these guys, and it just wears you down so much. I just would like to see them be able to find really solid defenders that are not as such a minus on the offensive end. People talk about Jared Vanderbilt and the game that he played the other day against Phoenix being one of his best of the season. I mean, just because of the fact that he has just been so inept on the offensive end, and he would be out there more often. But it's just such a drawback, and the Lakers just need to find better what they say two-way players. You need to find better two-way players or more two-way players to space out this roster more. And I think they could, if they did, they could be much more competitive against an OKC or anyone else in the NBA. But it's just hard for me to get on that mountaintop with the Lakers right now, seeing how, like you said, with athletic teams, with teams that can rebound well, with teams that can shoot well from the outside, they seem to have a problem with those. So a team like Houston would scare me in a first round matchup right now against them, because that right there, you have all three components that are right now tough matchups for the Lakers.
Yeah, I mean, that would be maybe something we could do in the coming weeks, is just like Lakers, maybe like realistic trade targets. One that just popped into my mind immediately is maybe call across town and see if the Clippers would move Derrick Jones. I know he's hurt right now. But another guy who played with Luka in Dallas had a lot of success with him in that playoff series, particularly against OKC. And just makes a lot of sense. And I would think that guys like that would be really gettable from the Clippers right now. But who knows? They have a crazy owner who never wants to lose. So maybe he just,
according to your article, that is correct.
Yeah. So I don't know, but guys like that in that vein are who they should target. And Lakers fans, rightfully, because your guys' history, are going to have dreams of stars galore. And then as soon as maybe it looks like the faucet's shut off, Luka Doncic comes on your team out of nowhere. Like they maybe should just through learned experience have that expectation. But yeah, I mean, I personally am with you. Like, I wouldn't hold my breath on Giannis coming through the door for a package around Rui Hachimura and like 2 first-round picks. I just don't feel like that's.
But they don't even have 2 first-round picks.
They have swaps. They have a pick and a swap.
Yes, picking those lovely swaps. Yes, yeah, and of course those swaps look really, really juicy when Luka Doncic is sitting on the Lakers bench. Sorry, so I don't. I mean, if I'm answering the phone, I'm like, why? What do those swaps get me? I can't wait to get that 22nd pick in 2028. Yeah, that's great. That's groovy. Yeah, that's dying for it. But and I'm not trying to be a guy that's, because I know that you get a lot of feedback is, oh, Gerald, I'm just being real. You have to be realistic. You have to approach this in a realistic fashion. You cannot sugarcoat it or make it sunshine and flowery. The Lakers, again, there are options for them to improve this team. There are ways to improve this team, and especially if it gets closer to the trade deadline, Caleb, the teams that are out there that want expiring contracts will be looking at the Maxi Klebers, Gabe Vincent's, and other contracts of the world, saying if you can bundle that up, that's $22 million coming off the books for us. We'd like to that. We'll give you something in return. So those are options that the Lakers have, and they can get better. Again, I want to see more from what the season's going to take before you say, you know what, I'm going to go all in on the rest of the season against OKC. OKC, even at 24-2, which we'll talk about, you know what, we're going to have to see and wait what happens. Wait and see what happens. But in the NBA Cup, my friend, saw this past weekend, like you said, you're all set, ready to go ahead and watch the OKC Thunder on Tuesday night, but something happened along the way. Victor Wembanyama came back, coming off the. How would you like that coming up? You know what? I'm going to see if the San Antonio Spurs will trade for that bench guy, Victor Wembanyama. So that would be great. Sixth man of the year. Go up to Victor, 6th man of the year. Does that sound good to you, my friend?
He'd be a front
Speaking
runner.
of Victor, it was also funny because I looked last week, and it was also noted by my friend Magic Man Sean Grice that because of the lack of games that Victor has played, he does not lead the league in block shots. Who is the leader in block shots right now? Don't look.
I'm not looking. Is it? I mean, my mind goes to Chet, but that feels wrong because you're acting like it's a weird answer.
It is a weird answer. The answer is Jay Huff.
Okay.
Who the Lakers had at one time Uh,
Yeah. Imagine the center rotation of Zubats and Jay Huff right now, where the Lakers would be.
there you go. And SPJ coming as off the bench as a backup point guard, giving some of that. Yeah, it's just that's when people give praise to Rob Pelinka, I just point to some of these other things as well. It's just like, little highs, little lows when it comes to Rob. But getting back to the NBA Cup, there was an upset by San Antonio. San Antonio, we've talked about a lot on this show as far as the future is concerned. I still think their best lineup or scariest lineup 2-3 seasons down the road will not have De'Aaron Fox in it, or should not have De'Aaron Fox in it, unless he's coming off the bench. But I don't think his ego and his paycheck will allow him to do so. So, your thoughts, my friend? I mean, they had a really good concept. It was a really well-coached game to keep them in the game against OKC throughout, and then be able to pull it off on the end. Utilizing Victor Wembanyama, he was plus 22, plus 23 in his.
Crazy.
Yeah. And obviously that was there. He and Chet didn't face off each other very much, which is kind of disappointing at that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But I get the jockeying and the chess games now because you save that for later. But your overall thinking when you saw OKC San Antonio, I'm thinking as far as a big plus for San Antonio later on. I know that they meet in a couple weeks 2 times, including on Christmas. And if OKC waxes them both times, then, we're right back to square one. But I think for the future, I really think for the future, this put a lot of confidence in the heads of those San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, in the long, I've always been very, very, very complimentary of what I think San Antonio is going to be and what I think Victor Wembanyama is going to be on this show. And that's because these are the two. Denver's really good right now. Houston could enter this conversation. Luka's in the conference, but these are the two teams that you look at, and like these are the two Titans that in 4 years we think could maybe be playing in the playoffs year after year if everything stays. And nothing ever does in the NBA. But
I want to say this for Lakers fans: if Luka goes nuclear, he is a threat in any type of series.
Absolutely, yes. But I just think these are the two teams that look like the potential Titans of the West. In a few years, when Jokic gets a little bit older, we'll see a second star probably will come to the Lakers just because that's just kind of what, and maybe they already have him with Reeves. But history just suggests that especially if the Lakers already have a star, they're going to get another. That's just what's happened to them. And the market and the what the franchise feels like, what it feels like to put on the purple and gold, all the stuff. But so I'm surprised that Wemby was as crazily dominant as he was in his 24 minutes or 22 minutes. He scored 24 points, like something just crazy, right, against one of the best defenses we've seen. But there's been, and there's on the internet, there's always people are just waiting around the corner to declare the Thunder dead or overrated or whatever. I would suggest that Wemby's going to be a problem for the Thunder. Wemby's going to be a problem for everyone. So I would tell everyone who's maybe dancing on the 2-loss in 26 game grave of the Oklahoma City Thunder to, if he was that good against the Thunder, what do you think he's going to do against your team when he's really on one, like he was in that game? Because honestly, like the Thunder threw Alex Caruso at him, the Thunder threw Jalen Williams at him, the Thunder threw Chet at him. It just didn't matter. He was just doing whatever he wanted. Maybe the most impactful he was on the offensive glass. Like he just was getting offensive rebound after offensive rebound for spurts, which has been a problem for the Thunder in past seasons, but really it has not been this season. They're one of the better rebounding teams, and he just came in there and wiped that away because he's so obviously just giant. But I would just say that as someone who covers the Thunder and I think has a pretty good like feel for the team, in that game they shot 24% from three. Wemby was making shots. Like there was one where he was fading away from probably 18, 19 feet. Caruso knocked it out of his hands. He regathered it, shot it, and made it. It's like, well, okay. I mean, what do you want anyone to do? Like that's just great players make great plays. And the Thunder shot 24% from three. Wemby was on fire. Devin Vassell was great. Jalen Williams was awful in that game relative to the standard I hold him to. The stats maybe don't suggest he was terrible, but I just thought for the superstar standard he showed he should be held to in those NBA finals, scoring 40. Like the Thunder are down 4 with about a minute left. Shea wants the ball, and he waves off Shea to call an ISO, takes a horrible shot and misses it, and that's basically the game. And it's just things that we're kind of, I don't think that are going to plague the Thunder in the long term. I just think they've been so ahead of their age in terms of those late game situations, knowing their roles. Like Jalen Williams, that's one of the best things about him is despite how young he is, only 23, 24, he's known immediately, like, this is Shea's team. I'm not going to do the young guy. Like, I need my own team. Like, he knows, everyone knows the deal on the Thunder, and they have since day one. And that went out the window there for whatever reason. So I'm not really particularly concerned about this season. Now, San Antonio is really good, and they're really good way faster than I thought they were going to be. Like, this was coming down the road for sure, and we all knew. But for them to be as awesome as they are now is really scary for that down the road aspect. And yeah, I mean, Wemby just, I was having a conversation with my dad about this of all people, because he was like, Dagnall, he's our championship head coach and in the Thunder's history. Okay, Sam Presti's always drafted well. He's made good trades. The head coach thing was the one thing. It's like Scott Brooks, Billy Donovan, like, these are not great coaches. He finally hits a home run, developing this own coach in the G League like he has all his players, basically, with Mark Dagnall. Whatever reason, my dad has just made up his mind that Mark Dagnall is not a good head coach, because this is one of these hills he's going to die on. And I don't understand it, but he really is unwilling to crack on it. And he, after that game, was like, he didn't adjust. I'm like, what's the adjustment? They have a 7'5" listed. I think he's probably taller than that, who changes the way basketball is played defensively in a way that we've just never seen, due to his height and mobility and inability to guard on the perimeter and switches. Like, he can do everything. And the Thunder really struggled with that. Like, he shuts off the lane, and if you shut off the lane, you have to make threes, and the Thunder didn't make their threes. And they lost by 2 in a game that I think they played really poorly on offensively. A lot of that credit to the Spurs. Castle was great on SGA in that game, as good as anyone can do. Wemby is Wemby. But in all honesty, like, I just thought it sounds simple, and it sounds like maybe excuse making, but so many times in really close games in the NBA, it just comes down to who makes more threes throughout the duration of the game, and that ends up giving a team the edge. And the Thunder, just who have been great at shooting for the past 20 or so games after a rough start, really could not make a three in that game. And there was some, I'm not discrediting, like, San Antonio is really good. And if OKC is to play them in the playoffs, it'll be a really, like, a 6-game like series that if you had told me before the season, yeah, San Antonio is going to be able to be one of these teams who maybe can push the Thunder, and maybe in like 2 years, not right now. And they're ready right now. And Wemby's ready right now. And I think that was more of a game of a coronation of how really good the Spurs are now on a national stage than it was like there's problems with OKC. I didn't see anything in that game that wouldn't be offset by the Thunder making their regular average from 3-point, in my opinion. That anyone can do anything about. Like, again, Wemby is Wemby. He's going to present his issues. But from a Thunder perspective, that game did not give me a ton of concern.
And the other matchup, before actually we get to that, I do have some thoughts. It does this game. Eventually they're going to be able to have bad games, and how they overcome those bad games, and how they overcome those games where you're not playing at your best down the stretch. Obviously, that's something you have to learn from over the course of the season. And I know OKC will use this as a learning tool going forward. But again, like you said, it's all about matchups, and we'll see in the next 2 games, although they won't be played with the same high intensity. I believe even the Christmas game will not be played at the same high intensity as the NBA Cup, because that extra money is on the line, and I think that it has been an incentive for these players. You may get a somewhat of a test of a showcase, but I don't think you will see as much as we would see in the course of a playoff. So I really think that San Antonio, for them, this was a confidence-boosting game for them.
Definitely.
I really like that Harper-Castle lineup when they go to those 2 guards. It really, for both ends, especially if they're hitting from outside, it really creates a problem for any team, and that includes OKC, because they're tall, they can dribble, they've got handle, they can go, pretty much anywhere you want them to go, and they're unselfish, and they can go ahead and work with and without Wemby as far as whether he's in or out of the lineup. So again, I think that's their future staring at them in the face. But De'Aaron Fox is playing well. I got to give him credit for that. He's been, since he came back from injury. We'll see how that 3-guard dynamic will work. But they do need some forwards. I do think they need to shore up the forward position. Again, they do have some great height and length, but I worry about throwing Harrison Barnes out there in a 7-game series at this stage of his career, as opposed to when he was on title contenders back in previous years. So where is he now at this point? We'll have to wait and see. And will the Keldon Johnsons and the Champagnes and the Devin Vassell's of the world, will they be able to step up in a 7-game series against a Lakers, Houston, Denver, or OKC? We'll have to wait and see how that works itself out, Caleb.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing I want to say on it is Castle is so good already. He is we all knew about the defense coming in, and there was very real, reputable offensive concerns, not just for his time at UConn, his stats in EYBL, his high school career. Like, he did not seem to be some really dynamic offensive talent. That just wasn't where his game was. And that's no longer. He is so advanced offensively, past where I ever thought he was going to
drop 30 on the Lakers to get them to the NBA.
Yeah,
Cup.
I mean, he was third in the NBA Cup MVP ladder that they posted. Like, he is so good already offensively. Even the ability that he had to in that transition play where he was going, I think maybe even against Chet, who's probably the second or third best rim protector in the league. Obviously, number one is held down, as we saw again in that game. But he went up and Chet went to block it, and he spun the wrong way against his body and banked it in. Like, he's just so creative and advanced offensively already. And that is as scary as anything for them, because we all knew, Wemby being this good, I wasn't really scenting it for when LeBron was this young and he became so good so fast. I'm not really shocked that Wemby is this good. This was who he was. He is the definition of a generational prospect. And then we're in the sports as a field where that term is overused. He is what that term is supposed to be. He does everything at a high level. Even Harper being this good already, I think he's maybe a little ahead of where we thought, just because the Rutgers year was weird. But he was the second pick and beloved by a lot of people as a prospect for a reason. Harper was known to be a really high level guy. Castle being this offensively in just his second year is problematic for everybody. And if Vassell plays at the level that he's played this season, especially since Wemby went out, while Wemby's back, they're going to be heard from in the playoffs against anybody, including OKC. As good as I think they are, as much of a chance as I think they still have to set that wins record despite the loss. I think that no matter who you are, if they're going to be playing their defensive ceiling, their defensive floor, is so high because of Wemby. Wemby alone is probably going to be a walking top 6 defense in his NBA career. And that's why I'm not as concerned about maybe they're a little small on the perimeter, just because I also think Castle can guard up in size. He's just really physical and a good defensive player. So I'm a little more comfortable at least giving it some run. Maybe this really 4 guards. Their best lineup in terms of just talent is probably you also have Vassell out there with those other 3 guards, and that's just really small and probably not sustainable. But I would at least give it a try with Wemby just to see what it was. But yeah, I just wanted to really key in on Castle because he is so far along already, and he's so much farther along offensively than I ever thought he was going to be.
Once again, it's Calif Poncy from the Swap Report. Go ahead and make sure you check out what he's doing there with this great article on OKC and also, of course, the Clippers as well. Go ahead and check him out at the Swap Report. It's me, Gerald Glassford, for some NBA observations. So before we get into the NBA Cup itself and our impressions of it and the news that's being circulated about the future of the NBA Cup itself, New York and Orlando met up in a decidedly less profile, unless you're a Knicks fan, matchup, because that was put on at 2:30 in the afternoon. One of the many issues I have here Pacific time. And I want to ask your thoughts on this. Seeing how the Knicks have laid itself out, Detroit, as we're speaking, did win in Boston in a very tough game for them because Boston had been playing very well as of late. But the New York Knicks have a lot of momentum now on their side, and especially coming off their great run last year, they had a little bit of a uneasy start with their new offense, which, when you look at it, kind of looks like their old offense. Just saying, who led them in scoring? Who led them in usage rate during their game on Saturday? I think it was Jalen Brunson. But be that as it may, my friend, this team looks like they're confident going into a matchup against the San Antonio Spurs. And whoever wins or loses, we already know, like I said, we talked about great things about San Antonio. But in the East, look out for the Knicks as well. But I don't know. It all depends on, what we see coming out of there. They have an opportunity to clear and a clearer pathway for some really good things. But could a Giannis trade spike that up even more?
It would depend what it was to me. Like if they were able to maybe figure out the way for it to be the Giannis and Kuzma, who's very flawed and not perfect by any means and presents a lot of issues of his own, but he's a body who could play. If they could maybe they get the plus of taking Kuzma's contract, but they also get a bench body who's just capable, because that's really the issue. Is if they trade Cat and OG Anunoby for Giannis, that is worth it on its face. Like Giannis is one of the 3 to 4 best players in the world. He raises the floor and the ceiling significantly of your team. That I do have some concerns. I just saw this as a tweet, but it made some sense to me. When Giannis has played with a pretty ball-dominant smaller guard recently, and it just didn't go particularly well. Like it just always felt weird, the Dame Giannis thing. It just never felt very natural, and then obviously now it just already is to an end. But then so I think maybe Brunson's even more ball-dominant than Damian Lillard ever was, and I think that could maybe be a bit of an issue. But I think you got to bet on it, especially in this East where there just is a lack of top-end talent. Like I think of the top 5 people who I think I'll even extend out to top 7. I think of the top 7 players and everyone is healthy in the league, I think 5 of them are in the West. And I think I'd say Giannis and Tatum are out East, but I'd say Shea, Jokic, Luka, Jokic, and Anthony Edwards are in the West. Those are who I would think I would have as my top 7. And so I just think the top end talent is so maybe leaned one way. I think if you have 2 of the 10 best players in the league or 12 best players in the league, whatever you want to think of Jalen Brunson, I think you're immediately going to be the favorite in the East right now as it's constructed. And so I think you have to look into it. I think I'd just stand pat though. I think, and maybe do what you do this season. If Giannis really wants to be a Knick, he'll wait till the offseason. The Bucks would probably love to wait for another Bucks pick to. The Knicks would probably love for another Bucks pick to come unlocked to be traded in that deal as well, especially kicking it down the can as far as that would be, or kicking it. I can't talk. Kicking the can down the road as much as that would be. But so I'd wait till the offseason if I were both parties. I just think the Knicks are playing really well right now. They have a formula. Jalen Brunson is awesome. He's always awesome. He's now 3 years in a row. This is just who he is. There's no doubt anymore. Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges is going to be weird offensively. He just, another guy who just is who he is at this point. But that's a pretty lethal defensive duo when they're really locked in like they would be in the playoffs. Hart is a perfect kind of fifth or sixth guy for that team, how it plays with his unselfishness and the ability to occasionally hit a big corner 3. And then Cat is a flawed but also great player. And they made their bed with him. Like they clearly committed to him and said this is going to work for us. So they're always going to be a little weird defensively with Brunson and Cat in your best lineup at all times. Like there's just are 2 players who are just never going to be very good defensively. But yeah, I don't know that this NBA Cup has told me much new about them as much as it's just like they really got a chance to maybe show what they've been showing. They're really rounding into shape on a more national scale. And I do just want to mention, I feel terrible for Orlando. Like as soon as anytime anything turns around for the last 2 years, somebody gets hurt. When now it's Franz and Suggs who are out. So
That was really sad to see, and he tried to gut it out too. I give the kid a lot of credit, but yeah, it was just like it's like I can't move anymore. I can't run. Come on, you gotta take that. It's funny because the coaching staff and the bench, they were not connecting, and he's signaling several times. I want to come out. I want to. The other players on this team, he wants to come out. They finally had to just do the old foul thing and just like get him out because they wouldn't get it on Orlando. But and that's a bigger conversation as far as Orlando because health has been an issue and their long-term future, however bright it may be right now, might get a little bit muddied up when all those contracts start really kicking in, and definitely have to go ahead and wait and see. But New York right now, riding high, heading into the NBA Cup. Again, the Detroit, I don't think you should sleep on them out there because Detroit in the East still has the best record out there, and they, again, got an impressive victory in Boston this evening. So we'll have to wait and see. But the NBA Cup itself in Vegas, I love Vegas. I've been here for many years. Always glad that when we can host more great things like this. But the NBA just had no clue. NBA has no clue how to run this concept as far as concerned, because running to half-empty arenas in both of these games was just an absolutely moronic effort. I just couldn't get it. Okay, first of all, again, running it at 2:30 in the afternoon here on the West Coast. Dumb thing, number one. Second of all, having these 2 to 3 hour, well, not 2 to 3 hour. It's like a 90 minutes, 2 hours, whatever between games. How long was it? That was more because you had to shuffle everybody out, and then before you could shuffle it. Yeah, why not just do it like the NCAA tournament does?
Yeah,
boom, done. Game finished. 20 minutes later, you got another one started. There you go.
Yeah, and keep the fans in there. I thought that was weird because I was watching the pregame show after, and they're showing Wemby warming up, and it's just empty seats behind him. I'm like, where did everybody go? And yeah, I mean, that makes it like keep the buzz in the arena, especially if that first game. Now, obviously, like New York, Orlando wasn't like an all timer that we're gonna tell our kids about, but like it still is like a game with big stars and in the Knicks who always are just energizing arena. And I just think keeping the energy that already built in that, plus that the just looking forward to that OKC San Antonio matchup. The one thing I'll give the NBA, I think I might have even wrote about this a few years ago, and I was wrong. Like, I thought they really were trying to push this Chet Wemby thing, and it just wasn't really connecting for me because I love Chet Holmgren. I think he's going to be an awesome multi-time All-Star, would be a defensive player of the year multiple times in most other eras. But they're not the same. Like Wemby is on a different plane than Chet. Like they're just not, they're both tall. They're both this like evolution of the center, but to the credit of the NBA pushing it, Wemby seems to really not like the guy for whatever. I don't know what's happened.
They don't like each other at all. The comments that they make towards each other. Yeah. I feel it. It's not to the level of LeBron and Dylan Brooks poked the bear, as we saw on Sunday. Of course, they're not sending any Christmas cards to each other, that's for sure. But it is, you can feel that there's something between those two. But they don't guard each other. I mean, and that's part of the problem, though. You line these two up, and they can highlight it all you want, but they won't guard each other until the playoffs. Then that's going to be something probably that you'll see more. But for as of now, like in Christmas Day, I think it's still something that you won't see as much as we'd like to see them facing off against each other.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. The Thunder, now obviously this was not the case a few days ago, but in Wemby's career, the Thunder have done as good a job as any. Like I think 2 of his 5 lowest scoring games are against OKC. They've done a really good job on him in his career. And they've always done this. They've always put Jalen Williams on him. And I think they just don't want to take Chet away from being able to kind of roam at the rim because that's where he's the most useful. He's an elite rim protector. And I think they know Wemby's also just faster than him on the perimeter. Like that's just not going to be a good matchup for Chet on the perimeter. And
that Holmgren Turner matchup, let's put this for an example, as far as in the finals, that was, even though that's what we wanted to see, the 2 7-footers out on the perimeter going at each other, whatnot. Both those guys could probably say that they've had better playoff series as far as like concerned. Ultimately, it didn't work out well, but just shows to the defensive effort that both of them can give as far as Turner and and Holmgren, and we probably see something similar from Wembanyama and Holmgren, where it wouldn't be the prettiest matchup, but it would be the matchup that we'd most like to see.
Yeah, and I mean, as someone who roots for the Thunder, like I like in Wemby making his little comments after the game, and Wemby like getting fouled by Cason Wallace, not converting an and one, and doing a little like shrug flex. It's like, dude, you're double. Like I like that as from the Thunder perspective. I like that I don't like Victor Wembanyama. Like it makes it so much more fun, and there's so few of these left in the NBA. Like I want to be able to sports hate someone. That's what makes sports fun, is being able to really have these emotions that are isolated. Like I don't hate Victor Wembanyama. I hope he has a successful career, just not against the Thunder. And I thought it was so much fun. And I think that as those guys both get better, because I'm a little lower on Chet than the OKC consensus. Like you hear everyone talk about him all the time, and it's like he's just scratching the like that's all you.
The unicorn.
You hear just scratching the surface with Chet over and over again. And I think he's going to be a great, great, great player who's probably going to make at least one or two All-NBA teams in his career, and a lot of All-Star teams and a lot of all-defensive teams if he stays healthy. But I think that he's clearly going to be the third best player in OKC's team. I just think Jalen Williams is kind of he showed me in the playoffs last year. I just think he's going to be at a way higher level offensively, and he's got compared to Scottie Pippen by Scottie Pippen last year defensively. Like he's just, I think, a better player, and I'm a little lower on Chet than OKC consensus. But I think that's going to be really fun. I don't even remember what your original question was.
Well, that's the presentation of the way that the NBA presented. Yeah. Okay, instead of doing those separate games, shuttling people in and out, hour, 92 minutes, 90 minutes, 2 hours, however long it was between games, having a concert in the middle of it. Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basketball.
It's basketball that they want. And you know what? You would have filled that arena had you made it 2 games back to back with all 4 of those fan bases in there, because you got to remember, they don't know. It's relatively short notice that who is going to fly to Las Vegas. It's like about 10 to 14 days. Or
it's
actually,
I think it's like 4.
Yeah, so you don't know who is going to Vegas. So you're asking a fan base to go ahead at the spur of the moment, head out to Vegas. Now that's been done before. It's Vegas, but it would have been better, personally, if they put those 2 games back to back, and they would have done all 4 groups, fan bases in there to fill up all the arena seats, and would have made it for a much better and much more fluid presentation by the league. But we don't have to worry about that anymore, Caleb, because word is coming out off of an ESPN article earlier today. Noted Laker hater Tim Bontemps is reporting that, so I get that in there. He just cannot stop just going and taking a shot on the Lakers anytime he gets it. It comes through. I can say that the Celtics are a well-run organization and they have a bright future. It just seems that he cannot do the same as someone who loves the Celtics through and through. But okay, whatever floats your boat. But anyways, he does report some good things from time to time, and one of them is, or at least in his own mind, and one of them was that the league is considering going to at least the semifinal games, if not the championship game itself, being played on the home team. And I think that's smart. But again, you might have seen better results had they done it more like a college basketball format. And I think that's just what I was trying to say, because I think they blew it on the NBA Cup, but the league was fixed on how it wanted to present the NBA Cup. And in doing so, I think that was their undoing, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that we're really seeing this a lot in college sports. Like, people are obsessed with the kind of neutral venue, and I just think sports are better when there's a home team. Like, if it was Thunder Spurs in Oklahoma City, NBA Cup, you win, you go to the Cup championship, whatever, and the Cup, that's going to be Thunder fans don't like the Spurs. There's Wemby Chet. The Thunder fans are always good and always loud anyway. That would have been like a raucous, really good playoff-like environment that we would have got to see in the regular season. And say the Thunder then win, and then we didn't have to do that. We can go just to the other game. I think actually would have been in Orlando, but say it would have been in Madison Square Garden. Like that would have been another, like Knicks fans have been starved to see relevant basketball for 20 years. Like that would have been another just awesome environment. And instead people like, I went to Oklahoma State and they played Bedlam in basketball this over the weekend on Saturday. They played Oklahoma, and they did it in Paycom in Oklahoma City. And it's just like, this would just be better. I would rather it be either in Stillwater or in Norman. Like, I just think it's so much better when there's a raucous, passionate home team. And I get maybe if you just, like, I thought it was better when they did just the final in Vegas. Like, they really wanted to make this like a Vegas event. And Vegas already has its NBA event. It, like, people show out for Summer League. People love Summer League. Vegas has figured out what Summer League is. And I just think that, and I'm sure part of it is like this is kind of a testing ground for Vegas, has always been mentioned as one of these cities that could get an expansion team if the league ever expands. I think the Vegas expansion stuff has gone a little, like, you tell me, you're there. So like the Raiders have this awesome, they have the awesome stadium, right? Like, but is there like an overwhelming?
That's really not an awesome team that plays in it right now.
No, it's
go
not.
ahead, Mr.
But is it like an overwhelming Raiders town? Like, do people love the Raiders in Las Vegas? Exactly. So it's like
they're mostly not mostly, a great portion comes in from out of out of state to go see these games. And for these games, depending on who they're playing against, sometimes it's a home game for the other team. I have seen, and I get comps every now and then for Raiders games, because God knows I would not pay for the Raiders right now. It's at this, it's a 70,000 seat stadium when it goes to football. And I've been there when they're like, can't even fill 20,000 seats for UNLV, but for the Raiders, depending on who they play against, it could be up to 70% Raiders, and it could be up to 70% the other teams, depending on who it is. Like, let's say it's the Steelers. It was a Steelers home game. Bears, it's a Bears home game. And, those teams will fill up those seats. But in town, it's like, okay, the Golden Knights of the NHL is the team that we all love because that's the team that started. It didn't start out that way. Oh boy, I could tell you a whole story and a whole backstory about how the Golden Knights super tried hard to be somebody that this city could care about, and they didn't at first until the city realized, oh wow, this team is winning in its first year, and as soon as they saw them starting to win a few games and put all this together and saw that they were a good team, man, we got behind them and haven't stopped since. And they are the love of the city because they've continued to win at a good level ever since. The Raiders, maybe if they'd have come in and really set the house on fire, it would be more that case. And there is a percentage of Raiders fans in this town. Yeah, you could just check out the license plate. That will tell you that there is a chunk that do love it, but there's also a chunk that just are really apathetic because of the fact that they just have not achieved any level of success, and they're laughing stock right now. The A's, because they're a borrowed product from a failed, previous location in Oakland, excuse me. Yeah, that nobody cares about the A's. And there'll be a small contingent by the time that they come here that might want to go see a game. If the Dodgers come into town, it'll be a Dodgers home game. Absolutely. There's no question about it. Or the Yankees or whoever you want to put there as far as any major markets and whatnot. But when it comes to a basketball team, I think we would welcome it. I think we have always supported the Lakers or teams that have come around, including this NBA Cup, for an extent. We embraced it. The tickets were high priced. I wish they would have been more reasonably priced. We would have probably seen a better audience locally come into it. But I really think that we've proven, outside the NBA Cup time and time again, like all-star games and whatnot, that we can be a great place for the NBA to be. And I think that if it's a expansion grown product, not the Hornets, not the Pelicans moving over, which financially actually would be the smartest way of doing it. But I would think the best way, if you want to really embrace the fans of Las Vegas and Seattle, Seattle's number one on the list.
I couldn't agree more. I was going to say it.
Yeah, Seattle's number one on the list. Las Vegas number two. If you really want to embrace those markets, put a expansion team there. As much as I say it's financially smarter to bring your bad markets there, it's probably best to go ahead and build, if you really want those communities to represent those teams and have really something special, build them from the ground up there. It's just that simple. I've seen both sides. I've seen the team that's moved here, and I've seen the team that started here, and the teams that have started here prosper so much more.
Yeah, I think maybe Seattle would be a little bit more inclined to accept the Pelicans or something like that, but Vegas, that, if they do get a franchise, it needs to be their own team. It needs to be.
I've been in Seattle, and they're they want a team. So I guess I would say you're right on that. So.
Well, and they also have the experience. They had their team taken away. It was a basketball city for the longest time, and they I think would just love to have a team back and be able to root for a team there and be able to root for a team to beat the Thunder probably.
Would it be funny though if it was the Grizzlies that moved over Seattle when they were just right above in Vancouver? Yeah. Vancouver to Memphis to back to Seattle.
I would be interested to know what the Grizzlies kind of attendance and everything is like. The Pelicans are obviously the team, they should move. I don't know where to, but they've never cared in New Orleans. It's never worked. They've tried time and time again. But yeah, the cup presentation, I agree. I do think the players try harder. I do think the play, Wemby.
That money is incentive. They found the sweet spot on cash that obviously the number that really gets them going. Caleb.
And it also does come down to when they do make these games for a trophy and feel like it matters. Guys, when you get to that, maybe during the group stage, whatever, right? When you get to the Final Four, guys are going to want to win. You're there. And these guys are, the regular season, obviously, it's had its issues, but
they talk about what they're going to do with that money, and they all talk amongst themselves about what they're going to do with it. So it does become very important to them.
Yeah. So, I think honestly, me and you are both still, I think, probably skeptics of it, but it does work. What they're aiming to do is working. The players are trying hard. It did feel like an event to me, more than another regular season game, the Thunder. It did, and we're only 3 years in. So, 10 years in, I honestly think something that I was really, my expectations were pretty low of it, working out. I think it is working, but yeah, I just think anything that can be in home arenas, I just think should be in home arenas, because especially games like that, and even bad teams remember Sacramento has been good once in my walking since I've been able to walk, and they lit the beam and the crowd was awesome. And teams like that, Indiana's crowd was awesome last year. These small markets maybe aren't used to being in these huge games. They're going to show out as much as anybody because they want to be in these big games. So I just think the neutral site thing just doesn't work. And if you are going to do it, you should do it like you said, where it's okay, buy your tickets. It's a group thing. You can stay for all the games. Why are they kicking people out and taking the energy out of the arena? It doesn't make any sense.
Ridiculous. And one last thing before we drop the NBA Cup subject and go on to our final subject. Get rid of the Technicolor courts. Absolutely horrible decision to make these technical. Everybody that's trying to watch the game on TV absolutely cannot stand you trying to bleed the color on your LED or your OLED screens or your 1080s or your 4Ks. I think the NBA is purposely trying to blow a couple of TVs across the country when they make these Technicolor courts. They're just so obscenely bad. And in the case of the Los Angeles one, they had to stop using it because just for some reason it was gaining more perspiration. It was becoming very slippery for the players. So they just said, you know what, we're just using a regular court. I just forget about that. Just slap an NBA Cup logo either physically or do it digitally like you do with some of your sponsors, whatnot. And there you go. Everybody is all set. You don't have to make. I understand you want to make it special. I understand that, but making these courts that pisses everyone off is not the answer to that, Kayla.
Yeah, I think putting the cup in the middle and I'm so anti holographic logo, the holograph. I'm so glad they're going back to putting the actual Larry O.B. on the courts in the finals this year. But I don't think you need to have a bright red court. I think if you put the big NBA Cup logo, or the big like everyone's going to know what, like, oh, that's not usually there. What's this? Like it's not like people are that's all you need to do to tell people it's a different game. Like you don't need the court to be bright red or neon green in the case of the Timberwolves. Like,
but don't watch the NHL right now, or it's going to really give you a headache. I'll just leave it at that because they love their digital advertising. I'll just think of that. It's like
everybody does. It's easier for them. I get it, but it's like in the regular season, I don't think it matters. Even in the cup, I think it's fine. Like in the NBA finals, like when they're like, okay, we're going to really do a solid for the fans here. We're going to put the trophy back on the court like everyone wants. And it's a hologram. It's like a half-assed effort. Like who cares about the hologram? Like it's put the trophy back on. There was the trophy on the court for a decade. And like, no, it wasn't like did more people blow their knees in the finals because the trophy was on the court, or more people slip? Like, I just don't know if it, and figure it out. Like you're the NBA, find non-slip technology for God's sake. You can figure this out if you really want to.
And as much as I would love the NBA Cup to do, because it does bring some tourists in, but it's not a whole lot. They get dwarfed right now because National Finals Rodeo happens during the course of NBA Cup time. And that just dwarfs anything in this town right now. They just left this past weekend, but yeah, for over a week, it's nothing but cowboys all over the place. So again, as much as I would like to keep the NBA Cup here, if you can't do it right, I would acquiesce and say maybe you should just go ahead and put it on the home arenas right now and just go from there. But again, great conversation with you, Calif. Again, we're in agreement on just trying to, maybe make some sense and to, slap around Adam Silver a bit to say, hey, wake up, man, smell the coffee on some of the stuff. But before we head it out, something that has been brought to attention to both you and I and Adam Silver is the number of injuries, specific injuries. I think we should retitle this almost the Strain Show, because the strains really have become prominent. And I know that we've talked a little bit about it in previous episodes, but getting to the point where Giannis is out, Austin Reeves is out, other players are out with various strains, mostly calf strains, which is leading to a lot of people speculate is that they're so worried about calf strains, which 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago probably would have not kept a lot of these players out. They're preventing it now because of what they've seen in recent times, what it could lead to. Case example, Tyrese Halliburton, who complained about a calf strain, tried to play on it, led into the torn Achilles. Your thoughts on the number of calf strains, this rash of injuries? I understand we live now in the load management era of the NBA, but is the league truly, is the pace of the game partly to blame? What could be the cause of all this, in your opinion, or is it something much deeper than that?
I think we're going to need like a lot of years of data to kind of know and like what causes who's and what, like all but I mean, to me, like a couple things make sense. Like players have never been more athletic than they are now. I think in the more athletic, it's like a finely tuned car, right? It's like the more athletic a guy gets, the harder, the more strain they're going to put on their body. They're more athletic. They're putting more strain on their body, and guys are playing year round from the time they're 9 years old now. Like all this stuff that AAU culture, they're playing games all day when they're 12 years old, and leads on and on. Like we have all heard all this stuff already, obviously, but I mean, I think the pace probably does play in a little bit, and I think the pace also just lends itself, like the more athletic the players are, the more they're going to want to run. I think a lot of this just comes down to like not a lot of it, but some of it does come down to like the more athletic your player, because I feel like it's similar in the NFL. Like I was with a close friend last night. He was going through. It's like, well, this guy Mahomes tore his ACL and Malik Neighbors tore his ACL, and like there's so many ACL and Achilles injuries. It feels like in the NFL, it feels like more than there's ever been. I don't know if it's true in the NFL as it clearly is in the NBA, but I just think as time goes on and guys are playing more, they're playing year round, they're playing harder, they're more athletic, they're running more. I just think in the long run, we're just going to have more injuries until we kind of figure out as a basketball society, like how to maybe manage these kids a little bit better. Cause I do subscribe to the fact that it does start when you're having kids who are 14, 15, 16 years old, go to an EYBL tournament and play for a week, and you're playing in that week, you're playing 3 games for 5 and 5, you're playing 3 games in a day, 5 days, like things like it's just going to lead to more wear, and it's going to lead to injuries younger. And so I just don't think we're going to have enough data for a while to know why it's truly happening. But I think a lot of it has already been kind of said what it is. And I do think the pace of the game does play into it for sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, Calif, you've been doing a great job as always. Truly appreciate you stopping by for your awesome NBA observations. Again, you and I seem aligned on a lot of great things this week, and I'm truly thankful for it. Again, doing a great job as always. But for more great insight, where do they need to go to catch all of your great articles and writing to hear more and read more about what you're doing?
Come check out the Suave Report always. Whenever I'm doing features on NBA stuff, I'm always doing them on there. My most recent one was about the Clippers. I appreciate you reading it.
Twice, because I enjoyed it so much.
No, that's even better. The more the merrier. So
I think you need to write a book. The Rise. Okay, the Rise would be in small letters because there's not much of rise for the Clippers, and fall of the Los Angeles.
Yeah. It would be a sad book. Not a ton of happy in there, but
unless you're a Lakers fan.
Okay, unless you're a Lakers fan or a Thunder fan since 2019. That's also doesn't hurt us either. So always come and catch me there. I'm working in high school stuff. If you're from Northwest Iowa somehow and interested in high school sports, I'm doing stuff here for the New Century Press, pictures and writing. I'm here every week I can be, so most weeks. We got some exciting stuff coming up soon for the Suave Report that I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about yet, just in terms of new stuff we're adding. So I'm not going to say anything till I know I can. But yeah, I mean, Adam always does great. The guy who I work for, who's given me a lot of really good opportunities there at the Suave Report. We have a staff of guys and girls who do all sorts of stuff, pop culture and basketball, which I know kind of also crosses over here. I know there's a similar kind of vibe here. So it really goes hand in hand. I think if you really like this channel, you'd like the Suave Report, and give me a read anytime you can, give Adam a read anytime you can. And yeah, I mean, it's just chugging along. Basketball's never been more fun in my opinion, despite some of the opinions of others. And just chugging along, going weird week off here for the Thunder, but they play those Clippers here. That's their next game on Thursday, I believe.
Keep your memory banks on that and remind me, because I want to talk about, is the game more fun to watch than it has been in previous years? Because that's something I think that's growing concern, especially for a team like yours and a team like mine that has a tendency to feast a little bit more than others at the free throw line. Plus all these replays, like the Phoenix game took.
Oh my! I almost forgot. I was going to bring it up. You reminded me that I was watching the fourth quarter. That was atrocious. That was so bad.
So let's talk about that. About that next week. One of our subjects next week. Is the NBA better to watch now than in the past? I think we should really share thoughts on that, because I have some opinions on the type of play, of course, how it's being presented, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll go into that. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well on it. But again, it is Calif Poncy. Please go ahead and support him today at New Century Press. And of course, also as well, the Suave Report. You can catch his great articles at both those places. But if you're a Lakers fan, again, that Clippers article is something that'll brighten your day to even just remind yourself of all the Clippers being Clippers. I told you, right, that my Clippers experience included my friend and I, a friend who works at Pixar these days. As Lakers fans, we went in full Laker gear to the LA Sports Arena for the Danny Manning draft because they were doing a pre-party. I told you about that one, right?
I don't think you have, no.
Oh, yeah, it was great. We went in there, walked in there. Of course, it was at the LA Sports Arena. They had their whole party going on. You got free food. Then, yeah, just sat there, watched, enjoyed it, laughed at the Clippers. And you could already see with Danny Manning, we just counted the days until he would get injured, because he was already injured at Kansas going on there. And sure enough, Clip's going to clip every time. So
they do. They can't help themselves.
No, they can't.
If any Clippers fans read this, think I'm being mean. I am a Cleveland Browns fan. We're the U of football. Okay, we're the same thing. You just mess up everything, and you kind of deserve it along the way too. Like it just is just what happens. I don't know.
The over for the Clippers is not as cheap. I say is, although if Cincinnati Bengals,
the Browns owner, to his credit, he'll spend money. It's not he doesn't always spend it well.
It's the Bengals. I think the Bengals
are the crazy cheap one. Yeah,
the Browns. You're right. Yeah. At least, but the Browns, like you said, they are the Clippers of football. Actually, there's probably more than one team like that you could say about that. But Clippers, they are in the NBA amongst themselves. But again, please go ahead and check out the demise of the Clippers in many ways through Calif Poncy's great article today at the Swab Report. And for everyone that's catching this out there on audio or video, you got us coming up later this week with the Lakers facing off against the Utah Jazz. So go ahead and make sure you got that game for you as far as covered on the post game. No more playback, everyone. Rest in peace, playback. So unfortunately, we don't have that for you anymore. But go ahead and make sure you catch us on the post game. Our world famous post game and our world famous NBA observations can always be found right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.